Welcome to Community Cocktails with Kimberly, hosted by Kimberly Woodard, a realtor for nearly 20 years with Ebby Halliday Realtors. Join her every first and third Wednesday of the month as she meets with the top community influencers to help you get to know the area you want to call home. Don't just love your home, love your community. And now, your host, Kimberly Woodard.
Good afternoon, viewers. I am so excited about my guest today. We are going to learn so much about insurance. I have Chuck Harrison here with Harrison Insurance Agency. Hi, Chuck. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. You know, it's funny, when I walked in here, I looked out the window, and we're actually located at One Galleria Tower, so it's just right there across the highway.
Yes, it's very close. Then you didn't even know we were here.
That's right.
Well, so much to talk about on insurance, especially this year. You've been busy.
Definitely have. It seems like, every spring we're always so worried about hailstorms.
Right.
And hailstorms always just, whether they hit all of DFW or just certain zip codes, they're all over.
Yes.
But this year, for pretty much the first time ever, would we have the coldest freeze in 100 years? And I know one of our insurance companies reported that on February 16th, on that day alone, they had like over 25,000 claims.
Wow.
So it, of course, has just been a mess. And, you got a lot of people that are unhappy with insurance because one thing that is excluded on a homeowner's policy is pool equipment.
Correct. And that was such a effect. I mean, I was watching people's Facebook posts, and they now had an ice skating rink.
Right. You could just walk across. I know we could walk across our swimming pool, but the pools weren't supposed to freeze.
No.
And if everything works properly, like
power,
electricity, as long as your electricity's on and the circulatory pumps keep going, your pool's not going to freeze.
Right.
But I know in our pool, it kept going off. Certain pumps would freeze. Finally, we turned it off, but by then it was too late to drain.
Yep.
And the electricity just stayed off. And so, all the busted pipes outdoors. And it's just too bad because I'm sure you're like most people, you pay your electric bill every month and you expect it to be on every month. But so we'll see where it goes from here.
It'll be interesting. So now the pool companies are very busy, and even pool parts and just different.
They're having trouble getting the parts. Yeah. A lot of them are taking 2-3 weeks. I know we still have like our circulatory pumps working. However, the cleaner pump still hasn't come in yet. But I remember I was home that entire day, and I left for just like 2 or 3 hours. When I came back, it's still 0 degrees. I lift my garage door, and water is pouring out of my garage. And I'm thinking, maybe some of the snow melted, but I'm like, it's not a glacier in my garage. I look up, and out of the ceiling, it's just pouring water. I had one of those tankless hot water heaters.
Yes.
And you know where they decided to put it? Above the master bedroom.
Oh, nice.
So water's everywhere. I walk into the master bedroom, water's pouring through the ceiling. And I'm like standing under my fan in my bedroom with the electricity. Water's pouring on me, and I was afraid I was going to get electrocuted.
Right.
But in that panic, you run outside. You're like, where do I shut the water off? I shut it off at the street. It still takes about an hour for the water to stop dripping, but the electricity's out. And we all know how, after the freeze, how hard it was to find contractors and water restoration companies to come out. So that was an example that happened to me. We probably had a couple dozen policyholders that occurred to as well.
Now, I have a quick question. So what would your advice be for now that we've gone through this, and for our next winter, for our homeowners to start preparing for that kind of thing? What should they do in preparations now?
That's a good question. And, you talk to a lot of people that have maybe moved here from the north, and they're like, well, we know what to do. We actually winterize our pool. But here in Texas, you don't really need to. But see, we kind of got that double whammy again where they turn the electricity off. Right. But one of the things is, as I try to tell all my new homeowners is, just make sure you ask your kids, everybody in the family knows, quick, if there's a fire, where are the fire extinguishers? And, your spouse as well, quick, if there is a water loss in the house as a direct result of a freeze or just a sudden water loss, how do you turn the water off at the curb? That's a big deal because the sooner you get it off, the less damage.
Yes.
So to answer your question, some of your sinks, when they start freezing up and you're opening the handles and nothing's coming out, there's a freeze somewhere in the house. the best thing to do at that point, I would advise, is to find a way to turn the water off at the street, because somewhere those pipes are broke. And then once everything starts to thaw, the water's really going to start coming through and find the leak.
And then there you got it. Then you get your best.
Yeah, and with homeowners policies, the owners of the house are usually there, so they're in the best care, custody, and control of the home. But if you have some of your clients with investment properties, where they lease them out to tenants, they may leave for a month or two and set the thermostat way down, and then if a freeze occurs, it'll obviously cause damage in the house. So we want to make sure if you do have any investment properties that your tenants, you advise them not to turn the thermostat down too low when they leave for vacation.
Gotcha. No, that's definitely, I had a couple outcomes. And of course, I had, several closings scheduled for that week. And
and then right before, if the closing was to occur that next week, if the damage occurred prior to closing, then you have to go to the current owner's insurance prior to closing. Insurance, we just hope there won't be any hailstorms.
Yes, I mean, that's all we need here is a big, one of the, like that one years back in Wiley, where, I remember that one because I had a client building out there that time, and just seeing, windows going, and it looked,
like a meteor shower,
it was just, everyone had windows boarded up with, plywood because their windows were shattered from everything. But I guess now that we've gone through that period of time, when people are looking at their policies, because, I guarantee you there's a lot of us out there that, maybe you haven't looked at your policy in several years. What should you be looking for on coverages that you're covered? So then if one of these outcomes happen, that, you are somewhat protected.
Right. A big thing in the industry right now is you always want to have replacement cost on both your home itself, especially the roof. A lot of companies right now, a lot of times most of the direct writers are doing what's called actual cash value on the roof.
Right.
So people may think, oh, they've got this great policy, but then when after a certain amount of time, whether it's 10 years or 15 years on the age of the roof, it switches to actual cash value.
Right.
A hailstorm occurs and they're just not getting the payment they were hoping for to replace their roof.
Right.
You were talking about a home insurance policy. It's only as good as its endorsements. And there are a lot of companies out there that don't offer the slow seepage and leakage of water. Okay. I mentioned my water loss earlier. It was freezing. It was a sudden accidental outburst of water. So that sudden accidental, obviously, it's not slow seepage and leakage. But we'll have clients that'll say they walked into their bedroom with their shoes off. They noticed their carpet's all wet right near the bed, nowhere near the bathroom.
Right.
And I kind of jumped to foundation. That's another one you need to have, foundation coverage.
Okay.
A lot of homeowners policy won't dig into the foundation. They won't pay for the jackhammer. Back to the slow seepage and leakage.
Yeah.
I was going with the shower pan on that one.
Oh, okay.
Because if an insurance company comes in and you say, hey, I'm starting to smell mold around my shower and my jetted tub, well, they might just say, well, that's more of a home maintenance issue. So it's real important to have slow seepage and leakage, foundation. Okay. Always check your deductibles. Make sure you have, a 1%. A lot of companies will chime in with a 2 or I've seen up to a 5% deductible.
Oh, wow.
And, then you're just kind of self-insuring yourself.
Correct. Oh, wow. 5%.
Yeah. And, we were talking about the perils in the insurance industry. This freeze kind of threw us off because that's, it's a 100-year freeze we experienced. Hopefully we won't see this for a long time, at least not here in the DFW Metroplex. Hail is of concern. Right. The other one's tornado. And here we are right here at the tollway and 635, where, if you recall, October of 2019 is where that was North Texas's costliest tornado.
Wow.
Started right over there, and it didn't discriminate. It was hitting $1 million homes and worked its way over. Yep. And again, it took, you still see homes that are dealing with the reconstruction on that, the rebuild.
Oh, definitely. I mean, if you go down Royal Lane and towards 75, it's a different look.
It looked like a war zone. A war zone.
So a lot of now, lots and new homes going.
Yeah.
So, but it's, we have experienced so many different things that it is also important and that people do look at their coverages. And, I know I do this every year, but I think we need to talk to our viewers about this, is to reanalyze your policy every year.
Right. Well, one thing I try to bring to the table, I've been in business 23 years as Harrison Insurance Agency, and I always say you're only as good as the companies you represent.
Right.
Some of my major carriers are Safeco, Travelers, Progressive, National General, Kemper, Chubb, etc. But if somebody calls me and says, hey, my policy doesn't look right, what can you do?
Yeah.
I can say, well, let's do a file review, and I can quote it through several other insurance companies, send you an email with 2 or 3 options, and they may all be similar, or one may be out of line. It's you never know the appetite of these insurance companies. Yeah. And I've had friends that have come with me and said, hey, they're with one of these, a direct write or a company that advertises on TV nonstop. They said, well, I called him, and he told me, he doesn't have any other options. Take it or leave it. The guy's an employee of the company. Yeah. Where we try to give you choices. I'm sure you like choices.
I love it. And I will say Chuck is fantastic because I'm probably, one of his low bases. But
she keeps me on my toes, that's for sure.
And I'll be like, hey, I need you to do this, or hey, what's this? What's this? I'm always asking questions.
Well, yeah, it's also important on the automotive side, especially with young drivers. You got to work all the different angles and, just have different options. And, with advertising on TV, you hear the word bundle all the time, and it is a good idea. But people have asked me, do you bundle everybody and try to do the multi-policy discounts? In our agency, I would guess probably 60% of our clients will have like home and auto with the same carrier.
Right.
But the other 40%, we may have their home with one insurance company, auto with another, but we only quote with A+ rated insurance companies or A-rated. So, we always want to just find the best value. And like we always say, we like to put all the endorsements in the policy. And, where if a claim arises, it's covered. If it's not, it wouldn't have been covered with anybody else.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, you don't always want to shop on price.
No. So let's, also since we kind of talked on auto a little bit, what about auto? What should we be looking for in our auto policies?
Well, one thing I recommend, they have raised state minimum from what, 20,000, 40,000, 15 to 30,000, 60,000, 30,000. I think that's still too low. You and I could play a game and start pointing all the cars that drive by that are worth over 30,000. Like, if you're going to accidentally run a red light, you can hit that car, but not that car.
Right.
That car, not that car. But I say just get as high liability as you can.
Okay.
Be less concerned about, well, should I do a $500 or a $250 deductible? You can always come up with $250, but you don't want to insure at $50,000. All of a sudden, you hit a brand new Escalade or one of these sports cars, and you're liable for $100,000, and your insurance will only pay $50,000. So max your liability out.
Okay.
And of course, I get some parents that you really gotta parent your kids and say, hey, let's maybe go with somewhat of a conservative vehicle when you turn 16 and start driving. Some parents will call and say, hey, we're gonna get our son a Mustang GT at supercharged. Right. You're like, well, you didn't think that that's going to be an expensive vehicle to insure.
Right.
It's also, more conservative vehicles are great for the young drivers. Make sure they take driver's training. And, of course, it helps if they have good grades, get the good student discount.
Yep. I just submitted my son's transcript.
That's right.
For
that's right. He's smart like his mom.
So no, well, and a lot of us do have these young drivers.
Right.
And I know when I put him on the policy, I had a nice sticker shock.
Right.
I was just like.
But I tell parents, hey, you had 16 years, you knew it was coming. It's not like it just happened one day they start driving.
Yes, I remember that day. I was when I updated my policy, I was on vacation. I was relaxing.
Right.
And then I got the sticker shock and I looked at my
So you said, I'm going to give my insurance agent an earful on this. I remember that day.
And so, so I told him to enjoy.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you got to also tell him, look, it's a big responsibility to drive. Don't go through a school zone where the speed limit's what, 20?
Right.
Don't go 21 and get a ticket and say, Dad, it was no big deal. It was just 1 mile an hour over. It is a big deal.
Right.
Or don't say it's not a big deal if you're in your school parking lot and you just bump into somebody and the other parent wants to file the claim. Then you have a at fault on your accident. And they don't always distinguish on the severity. I mean, whether it's a $500 payout or $50,000 payout, it's still a at-fault accident that goes on your driving record.
Yeah.
And as parents, you got to be responsible too. I get some parents that'll go have 2 or 3 speeding tickets or an accident, and they want to add their son. They're like, "Why is it so expensive?" And I want to say, it's not necessarily your son. It's
the other driver.
It's you.
yes, it's the adult.
It's the parents. You got to be responsible parents. And back on the auto. Another thing, when you reach that point in life where you're you have assets, you want to protect them. It's also wise to get a umbrella policy, because where you can max out your liability on an auto policy, say at $500,000, you can get $1 million worth of liability on top of that. Sometimes for like $200, maybe $300 a year. And as you know, to meet with a good attorney for 30 minutes, you're paying at least $300.
Yes. Wow. Well, I need to do I have all this?
Right.
I give you everything, and I'm like, okay.
That's right. Well, that's
and that's why he's so great.
Well, that's what 23 years experience. That's what I try to bring to the table, and it's best to always have options, especially at renewals, and see that you're not just limited to one carrier.
Definitely, be able to shop,
right.
Which is nice with you is that you do the shopping for them.
Right.
So you're shopping and seeing
That's
where
right.
the best rates are.
And I should plug my business. My website is harrisoninsurance.com.
Yes.
And my email is chuck@harrisoninsurance.com.
And we'll have that at the bottom of the podcast for you guys to contact him. If you're coming up to that renewal time, start shopping around, those, really, 2 months, 6 to 8 weeks before.
Yeah, what you don't want to do on the homeowners is say, hey, it's escrowed. I noticed it renews April 1st tomorrow, and you want to change it. Well, by then, usually the mortgage company's already mailed the check. So, a month, 6 weeks ahead of time, we try to get our quotes right out. And we don't advertise really heavily other than just being on the internet. Mostly it's realtors, mortgage agents, and title companies, and clients who refer our business. That's where our new business usually comes from.
Yes, definitely. Well, like I said, if you guys are looking to, review your policies, especially this time, and with everything that's happened, give Chuck a call and have him review your policies, have him look at your car insurance, and he'll get you a good rate.
Yeah. Well, Kimberly, definitely thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. Well, cheers to us.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to contact Kimberly with your real estate needs, you can reach her at kimberlywoodard.ebby.com. We hope you enjoyed our guest this week, and remember, don't just love your home, love your community.